Welcome to Freaky Fast Broadcast. As you can see, we got some action already going on here with the Wicked Racing League as they are into their next round of the playoffs here, as these drivers are all looking to do battle here at Dover. As I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching this race here tonight, as we've had some technical difficulties that we've been working through, some internet issues, and we're going to try to get this race up to you, uploaded here on our YouTube, so all the drivers can go back and enjoy it. But Tonight here at Dover, it's myself, Zach Hall, up in the booth. Joined alongside me on Wednesday nights, it's Brandon Kiley with our producer, Robert Moyer Jr. up top running all the cameras. Brandon, here at Dover, and the guys 13 laps in. This is an early start here and a great one for a few of these other drivers, with Steven Stippian leading the early laps.
Yeah, it's been really good for a lot of these guys. They've been able to hold station. It's a loose setup here for these guys at Dover tonight, and on top of the hot track temps that they're dealing with, that loose sensation is going to get even worse. But all except for one driver at this point, Ryan Harrison, able to keep it pretty clean. Harrison getting that early meatball flag, the required damage, he has gotten that fixed. And also Gavin Rogers, his penalty after last week's incident with Alex Coffey, he has served his drive-through, gone a lap down, now praying for a caution.
I think that's the biggest storyline definitely coming into tonight, Brandon. You brought it up, is that penalty given to Gavin Rogers for intentionally wrecking the number 7 Alex Coffey there. As we see the 81 of Steven Stibbe, looks like he got into the outside wall. It's going to allow the 7 of Coffey here to get to the inside for the lead position. And with that penalty for the 77 of Rogers, that's pushed him all the way down to the very bottom of the round of 8 here with 2,003 points. So he's at the very bottom of those standings trying to get into the round of 4. And also with that penalty, he had to do that drive-through like Brandon was speaking of, and that right now has trapped him about a lap down. So he's going to have to hope that nobody else in these first 50 laps of this first stage go a lap down, so he can get that lucky dog back very quickly to get on that lead lap.
And the good news is, too, is you see Alex Coffey now getting into the wall out of turn 2. Rogers is running about half a lap ahead of our leaders right now, but he is turning quicker lap times, so he's not really at risk of going a second lap down. Right now, he's just trying to focus on keeping it out of the wall, and you just got to ride around and hope you get that caution that's going to allow you to unlap yourself, because right now the position he's in, he's not looking to get stage points for stage 1, and that's going to hurt his chances to make it to that round of 4 like you talked about even more.
It is definitely going to hurt those chances for sure. The Buttkicker Cup Series has been on a roll, man, with these playoffs. And Gavin Rogers, if he was to have something happen to him here to take him out of tonight's race and put him even a bigger hole, that would be a huge storyline headed into next week to see if he'd be able to push himself back in there, because defending series champion, we expect a lot out of the 77.
No, absolutely. And it's a bit of a sigh of relief. I know if I'm in this field right now, knowing the type of driver that Gavin Rogers is, I am more than happy to have that lap advantage over him and just hope that we can keep it green at least until the stage here and give myself a little bit of a padding.
That padding will help for sure, because next week the task doesn't get any easier. It's going to be at the Darlington Raceway. So we'll get to see these drivers compete at 2 tough tracks. As right now, we've seen the top 2 battling it up right there. But right now, it's really this battle from 3rd on back. They're about a second and a half back from our leaders. You got Borbell here now with the 45. Amanda's here right on the back deck lid as he's trying to move himself forward and get that 3rd position from Borbell, who's up from the 9th position, Brandon. You know, this is a track where it's very interesting when it comes to tire wear. Like you spoke of, it is a loose racetrack here tonight. It is not on the tighter side that we normally see here with Dover. These rear ends are stepping out, especially 15 to 20 laps into a run. I'm interested to see how the tire saving will play out tonight.
And just based on, you know, looking at our comers and goers so far in this race, you've got Borbell, who's up 6 positions in 3rd now, and then Blaine Wilson just going around Manis. He's up 7 positions. The only other driver that's moved up as much as those 2 is Mason Hossman in 10th place right now, up 7 positions. So a lot of guys electing just to kind of take it easy in these first handful of laps here and just kind of ride it out, get a feel for what the car is going to want to do. But those 3 drivers have been pushing pretty hard, and I'm going to be looking to see you know, when the handling kind of goes away from those guys.
It will be only time can tell here, as 22 laps into the first 50 lap stage here. Is again at lap 50, the caution will be thrown. Points will be rewarded to the top 10 drivers, and from there they'll be divvied out to help them for their playoffs. And then a second stage will be at lap 100, and we'll to see how that all shakes out. But no worries with fuel in this first stage, Brandon, with 80% fuel. Right here, again, Dover, the only concern, I believe, is those Goodyear tires.
Oh, 100%. If you are not careful about how you are driving this track, your tires at the end of the stage, especially if it goes green all the way to the end of that stage, you are going to be hanging on for dear life. And, you know, we talked about Darlington next week. Dover's very much in the same kind of category. I'm looking at the front here. Alex Coffey, a big moment, just about got the inside wall. But back to what I was saying. Darlington and Dover, both driver racetracks, but also very key to keep the car clean. Any bit of damage here, especially with this new damage model for the next-gen cars, can be catastrophic. So these guys again, are going to have their hands full for this race and next week to try to set up that Final Four. I couldn't think of any two tracks that I'd want to see in this round.
Yeah, definitely. These are some of the toughest tracks, and I think it's going to definitely make a strong Final Four. You're going to have to get through these two races with smarts definitely in your mind for sure. As coming into this round here, Alex Coffey is that points leader as he's got a 2,026 points built up for himself. So all the way back to Steven Stimping in second place in points. He's got about a 15-point gap. So a great gap all the way back to second, then all the way back to that fourth and final transfer position, and technically fifth, which would be out. He's got 20 points, so he's got a good sizable gap. Coffey just needs to have two solid nights, and right now people are starting to step out with those rear ends, Brandon. It's starting to get a little bit hairy, and how quick this damage model has changed now. Any little mistake here at Dover, you could be ending your night, and again, those advantages of 20 points such as Alex Coffey has, they can be quickly erased.
Oh, absolutely, and we saw it here with Adam Buzzio, just that little scuff of the wall. And even Borbell getting into it heavy behind him. Anytime that happens, if I'm one of these drivers, I'm holding my breath, hoping that the crew chief doesn't tell me that I've got a mechanical problem or that dreaded meatball flag is going to pop up for you. And even with the 20 points like you talked about that Alex Coffey has, with 2 stages for each of these races, that 20 points can evaporate in a hurry if you find yourself in trouble.
It can easily evaporate. And right now we're having some great racing right around this pack. This is Adam Buzzio in the 5 machine. He's worked his way back to the 7th position, gave up some spots early in the run as Borbell, the driver who was really on the move, he's going backwards into 2s. He's now gotten passed by Mason Halsman for the 8th position. So it's just showing right here, Borbell, who went out there and really put down some good lap times, it's starting to hurt him. And what's surprising is our 2 top leaders, they're really struggling as much as anybody else. They are actually in a kind of a lap time zone of their own. So it's showing that you can find ways to go fast and save the tires.
Well, I think the biggest example of that right now, Zach, is Blaine Wilson in the 18 running 3rd right now, up 8 spots. He has been pushing. We talked about it earlier. He's running almost identical lap times to our 2 leaders who have kind of separated themselves from the field and from each other now. That benefit of clean air is going to be doing wonders for them as well, where we seen a lot of these battles, a handful of cars in a pack here, that it's going to hurt the tires even more dealing with that right front wear with the dirty air, with the track that already eats the tires as it is.
It is very, very tough as we're checking out Blaine Wilson right there, like you said, in that 3rd position and doing an excellent job at the moment. But I will say there is some ominous lap times being turned from a driver who is 1 lap down right now, and that is Gavin Rogers, our defending series champion. Right now, he has been the fastest car on the racetrack really the last, I'd say, handful, 7 to 10 laps. And it hadn't even been close at some points. He's been almost 2/10 quicker than anybody. As you see, he's already caught the rear of the field here, Johnny Shade. And this isn't for position, but technically how much time he's gained, it's been really a pleasure to watch so far. So once he gets that lap back, this 77 will be a threat, and we'll get to see what he can produce, because it seems like right now he is in the clear for trying to get that lap back at that lap 50 stage.
Well, and Zach, I'm not really surprised to see this kind of lap time out of Gavin Rogers, because after his drive-through, he's pretty much had a track all to himself, not been racing anybody, not dealing with that dirty air that we talked about. And now that he's caught the field, I'm interested to see, if those times really start to fade away. Granted, a lot of the guys he's passing right now are pretty far off the pace, have abused their tires a little bit more than they'd like to have at this point in the race. And I'm just wondering how much that fresh air that he had being that lap down car is going to help him right here. I'm interested to see if he gets his lap back, which he most likely will during the stage. When he gets back in the pack, is he still going to have this speed? Is he going to be able to go up here and challenge Steven Stimpian, who has pulled almost a 2-second gap from 2nd place of Alex Coffey?
I think that's going to be the fun thing to watch tonight, as he's going to the inside of Richard Wolfsfer here in this 56 machine. That's the 12th position on track, but the 77 again out there 1 lap down is Wolfsfer into the wall. Hard hit for him in the 56. He's going to have to keep that thing straight, but right now it's Cody Reed to the bottom side of Wolfsfer trying to make the pass for the 12th position, and this is huge for Reed. He's still a playoff contender. He needs to have a good night, and right now running back in the 13th position is not where Cody Reed needs to be.
Absolutely not. I heard a little bit of radio chatter. Cody Reed talking about the loose sensation and Not really sure what he was doing to make it step out like it was. And you see he's rebounding a little bit here. Looks like he's going to be able to make this pass on Wolsifer. Now setting his sights forward as he seems to be just a little bit quicker than these guys directly around him.
Does seem to be a little bit quicker, and I like the statement that Reed, like that you brought up there at Reed bringing over the radio, is he doesn't know what he's doing to make it loose, and I think that's kind of a common syndrome with this next Gen 7 car. I think, Brandon, you could probably allude to it a little bit more because, you know, previous generations of cars, you could kind of feel that looseness coming on it much earlier, and you could kind of detect it a little bit faster, where I feel like there's a much finer edge on this next gen car compared to other cars. And I know Cody Reed doesn't have a lot of experience in this car, so that I think is kind of showing its head here with the car being like it is here with the rear end stepping out.
I mean, the key to what that problem is what you said, Zach. You used to be able to feel that right rear so much more than you can in these next-gen cars and just get that sense of, okay, I'm right at my limit here. If I go a little bit more, I'm going to be over it. Or if you find yourself over it, you can kind of drive through it just a little bit. It might abuse the tire just a little bit, but it was not an immediate cause for concern. But with this car, with the way the independent rear suspension works, with the new steering mechanism and the rack and pinion that these guys have, plus the lower profile tire, you just don't have that feel. And then when you try to counter steer, by the time you're counter steering, normally it's way too late and you're already behind on steering, and that's, you'll see guys overcorrecting and everything. So that loose sensation, it is scary because it comes out of nowhere.
It really, really does. And right here, we're watching 25 Reed. He's trying to make up those spots that he lost at the start of this race after starting 8th. Now making the pass here, trying to clear Carl Pooler. And I think with the track being loose like this, Brandon, I think we could see Reed into the outside wall. We've seen a few people have that happen to him tonight here so far. But I think with the track being like this, the possibility to move around is going to be there.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And I think a good example of that was just watching Cody Reed here, running that higher side, just being a little bit more patient and able to get the throttle down, carry a bit more of a run. You don't have to put quite as much wheel into it on that high side, which helps with the loose sensation, so long as you don't get back to the throttle just too early. And he's making good use of it, running about the middle, a little bit high here. And you see Wolsifer behind him that was also trying to kind of mirror the exact same thing.
Trying to mirror that. Now we see Adam Buzzio. He's looking to do the same. Goes high on entry, cuts down low here on the exit as Buzzio's trying to continue his trend forward because he lost a ton of positions to start this race, probably saving some tire. But right now it seems like the 5 having a tough time trying to get it back as he's trying to get around Dakota Camper here in this 43 ahead of him, and he's been about a couple tenths quicker in the last few laps. I think this 5, if he can get around this 43, he should be able to maybe reel in that 78 or even the 14 ahead of him, who Brad Delph, got to give him a shout out. He's having an excellent start to his night, 10th up to 5th, really moving his way through the field.
Yeah, a lot of comers and goers, and you're going to have that when a car just kind of, the handling goes away, and it just is such a knife edge around this racetrack. Guys just have to backpedal a little bit, realizing, man, I've gone a little bit too hard here. And then the guys that are just kind of taking it easy, saying, you know what, man, you want this position, go ahead and have it. I'll see you in 10, 15 laps when you're trying not to hit the wall.
The wall is definitely a huge threat when it comes to the Dover International Speedway. This place always known to cause issues off the exits of these corners, as we're checking out Brad Delph here in this 5th position. Great top 5 run for him and running some great times, faster than the 2 drivers ahead of him. Brad Delph showing some speed here that could possibly push him even farther up this grid order. But right now we're closing in here, very close to lap 50 and almost that first stage break done and dusted, as Steven Stippian with still a 2-second gap out front. This 81 looks quick.
Absolutely he does, and he's still running just a little bit quicker, if not even, with Alex Coffey on a lot of the laps, and Blaine Wilson behind him is kind of in that same boat. Right now in the top 5, the quickest car seems to be that 14.
It does. Brad Delph has been very, very quick. Steven Stippian does drop it back down into the 24-48, which is quicker than anybody on the racetrack, because Gavin Rogers has still been turning those quick times in the 77 back in 15th, but those times have started to even out with our leaders now. So Steven Stippian in clean track, clean everything in front of him, and he's had a clean start to this opening 50 laps here at Dover. He's going to come out of turn 1 and 2 here and head through 3 and 4 here and this will be the white flag for stage number 1 here tonight at the Dover International Speedway at the Buttkicker Cup Series here at the Wicked Racing League. Is Steven Stippian trying to get him 10 bonus points here, Brandon.
Well, that's going to go a long way to try to chip into that lead that Alex Coffey has, and it's only 1 point, but 1 point could be the difference between advancing and not when the end of this round is upon us.
That really is a great point to bring up, because I tell you, it's so many leagues we see in playoffs. 1 point can make all the difference. And Steven Stippian with a great first stage, wins stage number 1. Alex Coffey going to bring it home in the second position. Blaine Wilson third. Dallas Manis fourth. Brad Dell fifth. Mason Halsman 6th. Adam Buzzio 7th. 8th goes to Dakota Camper. 9th is Steven Borbell. And rounding out the stage 10 drivers is Jimmy Hubanek. These drivers are all going to get prepared to head to pit road. When they do get off of pit road, we'll have a chat with that driver there in the 81 machine about his first stage, because he's been blazing fast to start it off. And what's going to be fun about this, the wave around is coming. Gavin Rogers, he's going to get that. He'll be back on the lead lap. So in the top 15 and on the lead lap, that 77 is going to be a threat.
A new challenger approaches.
That it does. That it really does. He's always going to be one to watch out for. And, you know, looking back to past history even here, Brandon, it's an interesting history that they have here. This was actually the very first race that they had here in the Wicked Racing League for this Cup Series. It was back in season 1 here at Dover, and it was dominated by that man in second place. 155 laps led here by Alex Coffey. But I will say, I think looking back to that, it wasn't this loose condition. It was more of that tighter condition that you see. And oh, look at Blake Wilson. He's utilizing all the shortcut of pit road, cutting through it. I'm not sure if that's a rule, but it looks like he's utilizing the rule book to his fullest extent.
Yeah, I mean, typically that is something that most leagues put in a rule in place to avoid, but if he found a loophole, good on him. He was able to gain a good bit of time over the 7. But, ooh, Steven Stippian, a big mistake here on pit road, slid through his box, had to back up twice. That's definitely going to cost him some track position.
That is huge, Brandon, for sure. He is not going to be happy with how that plays out, because look at this. All these positions he's losing. He's going to come out terribly behind. I mean, it's going to be all the way back into the 7th position for our stage winner. So we're going to have to hear what is going on with that. Just an unfortunate stop there, but we'll have to hear from Steven Stippian as we'll bring him on down here to our waiting room and have a chat with the winner of stage number 1 here tonight for the Cowboy Jimmy 175. It's Steven Stippian. Hey, Steven, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do, guys.
Well, buddy, I tell you what, great start to the night here with a stage win, but a little mistake there on pit road. How you feeling after all that shakes out?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I mean, this is a good track of mine. I just couldn't see my pit box because Alex kind of went through it, so whatever, we'll adjust. Got plenty enough time to adjust. I know I got the speed. I know I'm keeping the tires under me, so just gonna take it easy and get back up there.
Well, Steven, like Zach said, it's been a pretty flawless race from yourself. Qualified second and took the lead pretty early. Had a minor contest with the 7 early on in the stage, but drove away from the field. You know, what do you feel like you're doing that's keeping that loose condition under control compared to some of the other guys in the field tonight that we've seen struggle?
Just taking it easy early on. You know, just managing my speed off the corners. I'm not really trying to get the tires heated up and just trying to take it easy. I know, obviously, we got long stages, 50, 50, and then 75, so got to manage for the long haul, and I think that was some of the things that these guys kind of took for granted that first stage. We'll see how everybody adjusts, though.
We'll have to see how they adjust, Steven. Well, man, best of luck to you. You're going to be restarting here in the 7th position, and hopefully we'll see that 81 back up front here very soon.
Sounds good, guys.
All right, folks, that right there was your stage 1 winner of Steven Stippian. What an excellent first stage for him. He really maximized everything, and you heard it. He managed, and what's crazy about that management is they were still turning fast lap times. So with him restarting in 7th, this is a little bit of a different playing field. You know, he got the lead straight off the get-go there on that first restart of the race. We'll see how he can manage it from the 7th position, because he's going to have to come through traffic now, Brandon.
Yeah, and I think, keeping up with what Gavin Rogers was doing after he caught the back of the field as a lap car, he was running quicker times than our leaders, but once he got in that traffic, his lap times dipped pretty substantially. So, I think Stympian, he talked about just conserving and kind of managing his temps and his throttle inputs off the corner. That's going to pay dividends being back here in traffic, and I don't think it's going to be too long before he's back to the front.
I don't think so either. I think it'll be quickly that 81 back in position, but we'll have to just see how it plays out. The Cowboy Jimmy 175 has been excellent so far in the first 55 laps here. Thank you everybody for tuning in here to our uploaded version of this stream here. As we've had some issues with the internet, and we're hopefully getting those all ironed out within the week here. So that will hopefully be back live, but thank you all again for at least tuning in here and getting a viewing of this wonderful race here in the playoffs for the round of 8 for the Wicked Racing League. As we're going to get ready to go back green flag racing here as Alex Coffey is off and away and down to turn 1 with Blaine Wilson in the second position. Let's see how this second stage goes to lap 100.
Well, a great restart for some, but I think I may have spotted just a little bit of wheel spin out of others, and that's very telling, especially on these fresh tires. Having wheel spin, not ideal for the restarts, and hopefully that doesn't come around to bite anybody later on in this race with these stage restarts. But looking at it now, Zach, Steven Stympian has already made it from 7th to 4th in our first lap of stage 2.
An excellent opening lap for the 81. Like you said, Brandon up to 4th now, already looking for 3rd on Mason Hossman. The 81 looking quick. I will say, we got to watch out for that 78. He drove it from the 17th starting position all the way up to 3rd. He could be a factor too because he had some fast speeds there at the end of that last run. But right now, getting swamped by drivers trying to go around him.
Yeah, and it just sounds like Hossman is trying to, maybe conserve a little bit more than he did in our opening stage here. Is Stympian, when Stympian got to his left rear, showed the nose, he immediately came over the radio, said, "You go ahead and take it," and rolled out of it into turn number 3, and he's just trying to fend off as best he can without overheating those tires, the 45.
Great management from the 78, knowing that it'll come back around hopefully for him as the run continues on. He's going to hold on to that position right in 6th, right ahead of Brad Dalfus. It was close action between those two with Jimmy Kumanek there in the 8th position. But the driver that's going to be on the watch out for here on this second stage is going to be the 77 of Gavin Rogers. He's already up to the 12th position after restarting 15th. And right now, he's stalking Carl Pooler and Dakota Camper, who have their own little battle going on in front of him.
Yeah, not really pushing the issue, just kind of riding around here behind these guys, letting them sort out their battle without trying to get too aggressive and, push his nose, maybe shoot it 3 wide. And like you said, it's going to come back around. Just being calm and patient here. You know you're going to get him at some point. Don't need to burn up the tires trying to force anything.
Definitely don't want to force too much because it could come back to hurt you. But right now, Camper made that pass. And it's going to be Rogers on the outside of the 71 now, trying to do what Camper did there and get himself up to the top, up to the 11th position. But even while this is going on, Steven Stympian, who had that bad stop, guess what, folks? He's already back competing for the lead. He's to the inside of the 7 Alex Coffey, and the 81 looking to win stage number 2 here and get him 2 stage victories. That would be huge, but the racing is tough between those two.
And it looks like the outside lane a little bit faster here, but I think that's going to come at a great cost to tire wear and temperature. As you said, Coffey, just amazing run out of the corner to clear Stympian here. Stympian's going to slot back into 2nd, just running the same line, not pushing at all, trying to get back to the bumper of the 7. And again, it's that patience and just management that Stympian talked about.
A lot of management, a lot of patience being shown from the 81 for sure. And, even Brandon, I could kind of ask you this question, because you would know how this feels is when these balances are on the looser side, sometimes in my opinion, even as a driver, it's even better to be in that dirty air to help manage your tires.
That is 100% accurate, Zach. If it's just a little bit too loose, you can afford to burn off a little bit of the right front being stuck in that dirty air because it won't rotate nearly as well. That loose sensation kind of goes away. And it may come back around and be the more beneficial thing to ride behind a guy for a handful of laps until he really starts showing the ill handling in his race car. And then you just kind of scoot on by, no problems in the world.
That would be ideal situation for this 81 machine, but we'll see what happens here is Coffey's been able to fend them off here for the opening 15 laps of this second stage. We'll see what Steven Stippian can mount. But right now, the drivers that are battling is back around 8th. Cody Reed just getting by Jimmy Kubanek there as he go down the back straightaway. These two are battling it up right there, but they got to look right behind him because Gavin Rogers, he's made his way into the top 10. He's on the back bumper, the 8 now.
Slowly but surely picking him off as Gavin Rogers here just kind of, again, taking his time. And you see guys, some going into the corner low, shooting back up high, doing almost a diamond line through the corner. And you've seen, earlier Adam Buzzio, we saw a later apex. And these are typically lines that you'll see guys run when the track is more on the tighter side. That's more of, I think, the traditional line that we kind of see from guys at Dover. But right now, they've been able to hold the bottom pretty well as long as you don't overdrive it severely. And a lot of lanes have opened up because of it. We've seen that throughout this race, and it's put on some really good racing.
It has definitely put on some excellent racing so far here, and he's opening 68 laps here at the Dover International Speedways. The 8 of Kubanek all over the back bumper of the 25 of Cody Reed here, as these are both two drivers competing, knowing that they need points here to help them out heading into this round. As I say that, the Kubanek has tricked me just a little bit. I thought he actually made it through this round, but it looks like he will not, as he's had major issues on the back straightaway there as he's slow and is into the inside wall. So Kubanek there with the purple banner, not part of this playoff round, but still a contender, and with that hit to the inside wall, he's lucky to not have any required damage flags.
He is lucky, and Gavin Rogers saw his life flash before his eyes. That happened directly in front of him. Had some people come over the radio and thank Kubanek for keeping that car out of the pack. And like you said, lucky to not get away with that required damage flag, because that was a pretty hefty hit into the inside wall. I looked at the scoring real quick just to see, and it tricked me for a second because Christian DeRoche has one back in, I'm not sure exactly what position, but he has sustained some damage at some point that required him to go to pit road.
Yeah, DeRoche is still on pit road there, 50 laps down, as him and Ryan Harrison have had a tough night. Harrison out of this race very, very early. But man, it's a tough track. Dover is the monster, man. I mean, that's the reason they call it. It's so tough to go out here and fight your competition at a track. High bank, concrete, high speeds, high tire wear. I mean, this track is the definition of all out.
Oh, for sure. You're just on such a fine edge with the way this track is configured, its surface, the tire wear and everything. One small mistake, getting back to the gas just a little bit too soon, you'll get thrown into the outside fence or get loose just with the transitions up out of these corners. The car is going to get crazy light, and you will find yourself with a lot of damage on your race car. As we see the lead again picking back up, Steven Stympian mounting another charge.
He really is. He's tried multiple things too, got to the inside of him, actually cleared him one time, and then the 7 just drove it into 1 and 2 and cleared him back on the inside with a crossover. So looks like Coffey not willing to give this lead up here. And what's interesting this run here, Brandon, is more people have stayed connected. Blaine Wilson's still here, Mason Halsman, Dallas Manis. I mean, right now, our top 10 positions only separated by 2.5 seconds, where I felt like that first opening 20 laps of the first run, we had about a 4-second separation back to 10.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is a concrete track stack, and the tire works have started to lay down rubber. You can see it through the corners here, and it's keeping the tires underneath a lot of guys. They're not wearing quite as quickly, and it's kind of going to help that loose sensation just a little bit, so guys can drive with a little bit more confidence. And it's allowed them to push harder earlier on and keep that gap pretty close.
Gap is definitely close between the whole field here. The rubber laying down, helping the tire wear. And right now the battle continues on as these two continue to squabble. It's allowing so many other drivers to come into the picture. Blaine Wilson, Mason Halsman, they got to be licking their chops here, sitting behind this lead battle. As Steven Stympian almost clear off a 2, a little loose from the 7. I think this might be the 81's chance here into 3.
Yeah, but Coffey sailed it in there yet again, staying right at that right rear quarter. And he's just going to try to power off the corner, but they're both a little bit loose, a little wiggle, but advantage to the 7.
The 7 just not giving up. Alex Coffey I mean, we've seen it throughout the whole entire season. Even the time that you've been here, Brandon, the 7 does not want to not lead any lap here. He loves leading, and he feels like being out front is his best case scenario when it comes to winning these races.
Well, if you're in position that you can lead every lap and you feel like you can get up there and maintain that position, by all means, go for it. I mean, any of us that are racers, that's what we want. We want to lead every lap of the race. And Alex Coffey's done a pretty good job of keeping himself in that position to try to do just that.
Right now, Steven Stippian struggling with that rear end right here, trying to make the passes. Coffee has just made it so tough on him that, you know, this could be playing into the role to help these drivers even behind. And even my question is, does that outer groove, how does it wear the tires? Because sometimes these grooves can have different effects. One groove can wear the right front worse, one groove can wear the right rear worse. And I'm interested to see, do we see a condition where Stippian is going to be hurt here by having to run that bottom so aggressively? That 7 to his outside, is right now he's dropped back off him, and he's got some pressure with the 18 right back on him.
Well, I think it's two opposite tails, Zach. You see Coffee running that outside line. He's able to get a great run down the straightaways because of it, but he's putting a lot more load on his right front to carry that kind of speed, where Stympian just being pinched down on the inside, not able to open up his exits as much as you want, open up his entries as much as you want. So much more wheel into it off the bottom of the track. It's going to hurt his right rear. It's just going to, you're going to see here before too long, you know, which one would you rather wear? And if it's a loose condition, I'm kind of erring on the side of that right front. I think the outside lane burning off that right front is going to be a little bit better in the long run.
It really can be. And I think that's the beauty of fixed racing, that, you know, a lot of people, we watch a NASCAR event on Sundays, say, man, that car is just so fast out there. Well, that's usually down to the setup of the car, how they prepared that car coming into the week, and it's just that much more hooked up than everybody's track car out there. But with fixed setups like this here on iRacing, is now Blaine Wilson going for the second position here to take over that spot over Steven Stympian. We'll see if he can get it done. Looks like he will. Stympian just not able to hold on. But back to what I was saying is the fixed setups, you know, as a driver, it was Manis in the background, hard hit for him in the outside wall, and I'm surprised no required damage flag yet for him on that 45, as that was a heavy lick. Now as Steven Stympian's going to have Mason Hossman even behind him. I see it's all popping off as I was trying to explain something.
Yeah, a lot of damage on the right front of Manis. Decent separation from the panels on that 45 machine. Now trying to hold off Brad Delpit into the wall again. And every single time that happens, you are just hoping you do not see that dreaded meatball flag for your required damage. These tow links are almost made out of paper mache with this new damage model we have.
It feels like that definitely sometimes here. Is now the 14, Delph. He was in the top 5 during that first stage. Can he get back there now? Because right here is the 45 of Manis, who's in the 6th position. Then Buzzio up in the 5th position would be the driver that he's looking to track down. But this group here starting to lose a little bit of time to that front group. And Gavin Rogers right in the middle of it there with the 77. He's looking to get past even Cody Reed. So 2 little battles going on back here from 6th on back to 10.
And Rogers not getting his way through the field as quickly as I thought that he would. I don't know how much of that's playing in because of that dirty air, or just the fact that the tires aren't quite wearing the same as they were.
It's very possible. I mean, we just had a lead change, folks. Blaine Wilson give the 18 the lead. He's past the 7, now up to the front of the field and showing management may be the way to go. The 81 and the 7, they are struggling. It's the 81, Steven Stympian there into the outside wall. Now Buzzio going to his inside almost. It's just showing you right here, if you don't manage it well, you will start to struggle. And that is, again, I was bringing that up earlier, that's the beauty of fixed setups. It comes down to the driver and how they drive it when it comes to how the balance is, because you affect the tires more than anything.
Absolutely, and I would argue that fixed setup racing is the most competitive of the racing that you can do on the oval side of things here in iRacing, because it's all about what the driver in the car does. You don't come in with a disadvantage that maybe you just couldn't quite get a grasp on the setup. Everybody's got the same thing, and it's all in your hands behind the wheel to find the speed, find what the car wants to be fast.
And it really is, and we're quickly closing into that lap 100 stage break. Blaine Wilson here, if he could get those 10 bonus points, That would be huge for a driver coming in here tonight with only 2,006 points. So he would be right there on the edge of this stuff coming into it. So Wilson is again actually looking at things. I'm unsure. I don't. Wilson is not in the playoffs, even though he does have, I believe, the purple banner on his car. So, um, yeah, tough to see there. But yeah, Wilson, this is a situation where 10 bonus points is nice to have, but it's not going to be too critical since he's not in the playoffs. So Wilson here, this 18 out front leading the way, but this would be huge still to get a stage victory.
Absolutely, and I mean, even if you're not in the playoffs, you still want to be the best of the rest.
You definitely want to be the best of the rest for sure. Even my producer right now saying, I'm unsure. I don't think Blaine has won a stage, but looking back at it, I do fondly remember one time where I did get a stage victory, I believe, because this guy has been due for a victory overall, in my opinion, because he's had some great runs on some high tire wear tracks. And what is Dover? It is a high tire wear track. So I'm not terribly surprised to see this 18 out front here and in a really good spot to go out here and win this stage because he's just driving away from the field behind him.
And I thought Adam Buzzio was maybe going to be the guy that could contend with the 18 of Blaine Wilson. They were running pretty similar lap times, but now Wilson, he is in a league of his own driving away here. But Steven Stimpian getting passed by Buzzio. Buzzio now up to the 4th position, just a little bit quicker, I think, than Hausman in front of him. And Coffey just trying to hold on for P2 for the stage.
Everybody holding on for what they got. Such a critical time here in the round of 8 when it comes to the playoffs for the Wicked Racing League. These drivers know it is now or never to push yourself into that Final Four. And they got Darlington next week, which just makes it that much more tough. As now Steven Stimpian going to make the pass on the 5 of Buzzio. And I got to give those two credit. The 81 let the 5 go about 5-10 laps ago, and he said, "Here, you take it." The 5 repays that favor, and that's just some good old school racing.
Yeah, it's a lot of respect for these guys on the track just to know, hey, I could battle you really hard right now. I could try to cling to this position, but you're faster. I understand you're faster. I'm not going to hold you up here. You go ahead, and I hope that you extend that same courtesy, and we saw it just there. Stimpian able to regain just a little bit, be a little bit faster, and around he goes.
Around he does go, and oh no, the 2 of Borbell here. Heavy into the inside wall for him. He'll keep it going for the moment, but man, Borbell there, that was a tough scene to have, and it just shows you how unstable these race cars are. The 2 right now struggling to hold on to that machine.
And luckily, again, no required damage for Borbell on the 2. But man, it's kind of what we've seen throughout a lot of the night here. Guys just struggling, especially out of turn 2. It seems like that's the looser of the 2 exits here at Dover. Just nailing that inside wall.
Inside wall has had some friends here tonight. It's been a tough scene for a few, but 8 of our drivers still out there battling it up, trying to make sure they can have a good night here to set them up for Darlington next week. That's going to be the key, but only 2 laps away as Kubinek's going to make the pass there for 11th on Borbell. The 18 of Blaine Wilson out here, smooth sailing for him, is right now turning some of the fastest times on the racetrack in this 18, and just right now coming to look around for that final lap of the stage.
Yeah, and I think, I'm looking at Blaine Wilson here running these extraordinary lap times this late in the run. Steven Stimpian back and forth has regained to the point where he's running within thousands of what Blaine Wilson is. So it's just, again, that kind of ebb and flow of this race with these drivers on these tires. And Blaine Wilson right now looking to take home the stage victory. He's found the flow.
The flow has been there, and right now out of 3 and 4, Blaine Wilson, not a playoff contender no more, but still a contender for race wins. He's going to win stage number 2. Alex Coffey going to get the 2nd position. 3rd is going to go to Mason Hausman. 4th for our stage 1 winner of Steven Stimpian. 5th is going to be Adam Buzzio. 6th is going to be Brad Delph. 7th is going to go to Gavin Rogers. 8th is going to be Cody Reed. 9th is going to go to Dakota Camper. And rounding out the top 10 is Dallas Manis there for stage points, all served around. But this 18, he's got to be feeling sporty tonight, Brandon.
Oh, absolutely, especially being the biggest mover coming through the field in stage 1. getting up to about 3rd position or so, and then just kind of hanging around there, falling back just a little bit. He has found something. Whatever he's doing, it's 100% working. He let Coffee and Stimpian battle it out, and when the time was right, he snuck up on him and just sailed off into the sunset.
We talked about licking those chops right behind those two battling in front of him, and I think the 18 was definitely doing that as he's going to bring it to pit road here, get service done to his race car, and then we'll have a chat with him about his stage number 2 because excellent drive from him, man. He's been very, very good so far, and again, right here, pulling to the very far inside lane. I've not seen others do it. That is the only thing that concerns me with seeing him doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the only one doing it, race control hasn't said anything about it, so I'm guessing that it's not a rule. I think so many guys are just so used to that being a rule that they can't do that they don't even try it. But it's worked out pretty well for him on pit road so far.
That it has. He's been able to get off and on pit road very, very good. Is still getting the service done. Now exiting his pit box. We'll get to see the race off of pit road here and see if he can hold on to this lead position because we saw it's critical to have that track position. Is nope, Alex Coffey, that first pit box pays off once again. He wins the race off of pit road. But as they get all back up to speed and back to pace and laps, we're going to bring Blaine Wilson from 2011 Racing here and see what he has to say about his night so far here at the Dover International Speedway. Hey, Blaine, congrats on the stage win. It's Zach and Brandon up at the booth. You got a copy.
Yes, sir.
Well, Blaine, that was an excellent second stage there for you, man. And I mean, even an excellent first stage. You drove up from the 11th to the 3rd there in the first one. Now winning stage number 2. How you feeling heading into the final portion of the race?
It feels good. That second stage just sort of proved my philosophy on how to handle it. And it worked out great. So, yeah, at the end of stage 1, I had to push to work my way up here. Right front was at like 38, and this stage is at 78, so much better overall.
Well, Blaine, you have certainly figured it out here. Just kind of lingering around behind these guys at the front, watching them battle, and you took off, man. How confident do you feel with the speed that you were showing at the end of stage 2 that you can go out here and snag this victory?
Yeah, so that would be cool. Untimely, I wish I could have got it, last race, which would have been nice for the playoff standing, but it's the way she goes sometimes. But yeah, we're still hunting for our first win in this league. We get into a lot of stuff. It's unfortunate, so hopefully we can keep it clean tonight and take it home.
Well, Blaine, we'll be watching along with y'all, trying to see what the battles do, man. Best of luck to you, and hopefully we're talking to you later in Victory Lane.
Thanks, me too.
All right, folks, that was your stage 2 winner of Blaine Wilson there from 2018 Racing. That group very, very strong here tonight. Is the 18's just been on fire, working his way up through the field. And with all of this, how it played out, what do we see play different here, Brandon? Because, we've seen Steven Stippian restart 7th after winning stage 1, drive immediately up to 2nd. Do you think there's going to be a little bit more conservation in this run? Because 75 laps, 80% fuel load, I don't know if they're going to be able to do the full fuel run with the 80% fuel load. I think it's going to be kind of close on fuel for these guys.
Well, it opens up the box for a lot of strategies, and I think if you're somebody like Blaine Wilson or even Mason Hausman, who had a really good stage 2, found a lot of speed late in that run, you don't change anything. But if you're somebody like Stimpian or some of the other guys that kind of fell off pretty hard and were able to regain just a little bit at the end, you are looking to try to find something to improve your bit of tire wear. I'd be interested to see what the difference between the 18 and the 81 were that last run, because you heard Wilson, 30% on his right front that first run. That's not ideal at all.
That's not very ideal. I think these drivers are going to be hoping for more than that for sure. Is they're going to be saying, I need a lot more tire than that for sure for 75 laps. So pace car is in. Just did some quick math with some data I got. These guys should be able to go 82 laps, so I don't think we're going to see a green flag stop unless you got tire problems, because we've seen so far the tires do wear quickly, but green flag is back out as these drivers battle past the start-finish line and head down to turn 1 with Coffey lead.
Well, Coffey took off in a hurry, as he has in all the previous restarts, and Osman looking maybe a little bit more aggressive this run for this final stint of the race compared to especially what he did during the second stage where he was just waving guys by.
All these drivers knowing what's on the line. So many different playoff contenders, 8 of them out there that know if they go and win here tonight, it makes Darlington that much easier on them heading into the next few races. And right now, 3 of the drivers up front in our first 3, all playoff contenders. Blaine Wilson, the first driver outside of those playoffs there in the 4th position. Adam Buzzio 5th. Gavin Rogers now up to 6th too. Rogers gained some track position through this latest restart. We'll see, does the 77 have a shot here for a victory late in this race?
Well, the beauty of it is now we're finally going to get that idea of how quick Gavin Rogers is going to be with a lot less dirty air. He's only got this handful of cars in front of him here, a lot more opportunity to get some fresh air on the nose and kind of show that speed that we're thinking he has.
Have to see how that works out for him, because right now it's stacking up. The leader of Coffee holding on to the position for now as Stipion's caught up to him, but this group right here is a gaggle. The 25 of Reed trying to go around the outside of the 77 of Rogers. You also got the 45 of Manis there up top. And it looks like all these drivers, there's so much saving going on that you're seeing a good surge from a few drivers that were farther back on this outside line that I think are saying, hey, I'm going to go get some track position.
Well, I'm not sure. I know there's some of these guys in the playoffs that are trying to maybe get up here while these guys are saving and you know, snag a lead, a lap lead for that point. But with how long this run is, I don't know if that's a wise decision, Zach.
I mean, we heard Blaine Wilson, tires down into the 30% range, and that was a 50-lap run to start this race. If you know, there is more rubber on the racetrack, so the tires should be better off. But, you know, how long will the tires last? Will they be able to go 75 laps on these tires? Well, we're going to have to see. I mean, this is going to be the fun thing to watch. And even Steven Stippian, he's trying to do what he did this second stage and get back to the lead there when I was Coffee, but they've been fighting continuously as this group continues on. So it's right now, I think it's a save or not save game, and right now that's caused a bunch of melee going on and can easily end up being an incident.
That was going to be my point, Zach, is you're just hoping, and I've experienced this through my iRacing career as a driver. You just try to back it off a bit and save, and you end up getting run over by somebody who's maybe not expecting you to be slowing down as much as you are to save. You know, guys pushing, get out of shape ahead of you, and you just kind of get collected. That's the risk you take. And these guys that are saving are just hoping that doesn't happen to them.
Everybody hoping they can make it through to the finish. They know these points are so valuable that if you had something happen, it could take you out of contention. As we're looking at Rogers here, I mean, he was up to 7th, up to 6th, sorry, there at one point. Now back to 11th with 12th here going to Carl Pooler. I think these guys need to have a bigger picture in mind. I like what Rogers is doing. Yes, he's given up a ton of spots, but if we go green here like we've had for majority of the night, this 77 may be a threat in the final 25.
Oh, absolutely, and especially what we've seen is that if you give up time, you gain those positions back later just by saving. It's not a track position type of race here. It's very much conserving your equipment and being fast towards the end of the run here. So I'm with you, Zach. I like it a lot, seeing what Gavin Rogers is doing, and as well as Wilson, just a few spots up ahead of him. Started this restart 2nd for this last 75 laps, and he's down to 8th position right now.
It shows the differing varying levels of saving here for sure. And the driver who said, screw saving, I'm going out to the front, it's the 43 Dakota Camper. He is out front just driving away from these guys. About 6/10 of a second lead for him at the moment. But Camper just trying to get out and lead some laps, get some bonus points, and he's a playoff contender. So this is huge for him. And if we do get a caution in here at some point, he could cycle around to have that lead, and then that can change the whole story of this whole race coming down to the end.
It very much could, and especially if we get a caution and there's no mistakes on pit road and you're able to keep that kind of track position, you're in a much better spot to push early, just because you've got the clean air, and we've seen that clean air can be pretty beneficial for the leader. As long as you pace yourself, you can fend off a lot of challenges from guys behind you, just having that slightly better tire wear. So we'll have to see what happens here.
Ooh, Carl Buller shoved down to the apron there by the 45 of Manis. He had to back out of that situation. You've seen Rogers take control of 10th, but this battle back here almost came to blows, and that would have been devastating for Rogers there, right in the mix of it, being a playoff contender. So, luckily for his sake, he gets through it scot-free and continues on here in that 77. But back in the 10th position, about 3 seconds back from leader Dakota Camper. But it's just showing the different varying levels of drivers trying to save their equipment. And I mean, even last run, Brandon, looking back at some of the lap times, 77, as soon as he got clear track, he was one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. We'll just have to see, can he get the timing that he needs here for this long run to be able to drive himself back up into position. This may not be a race-winning move here by dropping back this far, but it could very well get him some solid points, especially with that points penalty coming in.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the main thing on Rogers' mind here is just the best finish possible. You know, don't try to play any fancy strategy that might put you in a really bad spot here, but just saving. I mean, he is tenths a lap slower than the handful of cars in front of him here, and that's all going to come back around. And like you said, it may not be a race-winning move, but with the pace that he has shown in clean track, he's definitely going to be contending for a top 5, if not a top 3, and that's solid points.
Solid points indeed, and that's what it's all about here, especially in the round of 8. You need to be solidly consistent. You cannot have off nights, and you got to go up there and get as many points as possible, as Rogers is trying to do the best he possibly can. The biggest thing for him is he lost out on the first stage points by being a lap down due to that drive-through. So the 77 is going to have a hole to dig out of when it comes to those points, but he's got a strong shot here with how he's saving right now of driving himself forward later in this run as we continue on green with Dakota Camper still leading the way. And the thing, you know, I was looking at, Brandon, is some of these lap times, the fluctuation is actually pretty crazy to see. I've seen Alex Coffey at sometimes at 23.9s, which is 9/10 of a second off the pace, then all the way back down to a 23.4 a couple laps later, which is only 3/10 off the pace. So I think these drivers are just going when they see a driver behind them. They know, hey, I want to defend this position, so they go a little faster. They get a gap, they slow back down.
I think that's exactly what you know, you just kind of have to do with the way that the tire model for the oval side here works. You almost have to kind of play that game where you push to get ahead and then you just back off, and then you don't really push again until somebody makes the charge to try to take your position. And it's kind of the name of the game, and Alex Coffey's played it very well. Obviously, I don't think he's dropped any farther back than second this entire race.
Yeah, we haven't seen him definitely drop farther back in second. That's been the low position for him all night long, which he would definitely take with the points gap he's had coming into this event, and even with 2 second-place finishes in this stage. So it's been a great night for that points leader coming in, Alex Coffey, as he holds on the second for the moment. But with this now under 50 laps to go here, we're going to head to a commercial break here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, as it's been the Wicked Racing League here at the Buttkicker Cup Series for the Cowboy Jimmy 175 here at the Dover International Speedway. It's been an excellent 127 laps so far. You won't miss a thing as we head side by side.
You wanted the best, you got them for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. World of Outlaws Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
think I watched Josh 3 or 4 times before I ran the car. He killed them every race, and it was like stout fields, like good cars, big races, and I mean, he was unbeatable. And I was like, oh man, this is, like, I'm nervous. I was so nervous getting into the car full time this year after watching Josh win 3 or 4 races straight. These cars, they have a lot of horsepower now. They have over 500, and I think 5 years ago they didn't have 450. They're gonna be a handful to drive, but just don't overdrive them. Let the car do the work.
And we're back, folks, here at the Wicked Racing League for the Buttkicker Cup Series, as it's been a action-packed night here at Dover, as these drivers have been trying to hold on to it. As you see Buzzio there in the 5 machine, he gets into that outer wall and just makes a little bit of a collision for him. But right now, it's coming down to a long run, folks. This is getting very, very spicy, as Alex Coffey has pulled out a gap with Steven Stimpy and those two about 3.5 seconds back to the third place car of Mason Halsman there. You see that group lined up. It's Halsman, Rogers, Wilson, all there from 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with Buzzio back here in this 6th position, with now Brad Delph holding on to 7th. So this top 7 here looking very, very strong through 147 laps, and we're quickly closing in here to the end of this race. And a big thing too, Brandon, you know, we seen Dakota Camper, he jumped out to the lead, but now he's hit pit road, and that's put him in a situation where he's got to drive back around for a playoff driver. I wonder if some of these drivers may run into some tire issues before this race is over.
Yeah, that is got to be on the forefront of everybody's mind. Seeing Camper and Borbell as well hit pit road. And I was kind of questioning the decision to pit from Dakota Camper, because, yeah, we saw him charge up to the lead, and it was a little bit of contact with Blaine Wilson and Hausman in the 78 there, keeping it straight. And like I was saying, we saw him jump out to the lead, pull out a big gap, rapidly lost that, burned up his tires, but really stabilized about that 3rd position and was running kind of equal times to what our front 2 were before he decided to pit.
It has been very interesting to watch some of these lap times fluctuate between drivers and really showing different amounts of speed. And Rogers, who gave up all the way back to around the 11th position, he's up to 3rd. He was 2/10 quicker that last lap than our leaders up ahead. This 77, he could quickly run these guys down, because we still have 25 laps to go and we cross the line next time by. If he's 2/10 a lap quicker each and every lap, he will get there.
100% he will, and especially with the gap that our front 2 have built up, he's got nothing but clean track ahead of him, and only the 2 cars that had been in pit road, but now Johnny Shade, he's on pit road as well. But those cars that were on fresher tires have passed him, and they're going to be pulling away, so that's just clean air all around. Plenty of laps to work with here. I think this may have been the perfect call for Rogers on exactly how much he needed to save.
Yeah, and speaking on the lap times, Rogers is running 24:38 to our leaders 24:58. So 0.2 of a second lap in and lap out. That 77 is quicker. This is going to be fun to watch. As now Adam Buzzio, he's going to get passed by the 14 to Brad Delp, who's just had an excellent night. I got to say, this 14, he's been very quietly strong, and right now quicker than the two drivers even ahead of him. He could be looking for a top 4 finish here tonight.
Oh, well, absolutely. It's been a stellar performance. We're used to seeing, Brad Delp kind of come and go a lot, maybe get caught up in some wrecks, just trying to push maybe a little bit too hard, some not of his own doing. And sometimes that's what you got to be, is quiet, and you find those good finishes. So a good 6th-place run at the moment for the 14 here. Looks like he's slowly reeling in the 18 of Blaine Wilson ahead of him now.
Does look like he's slowly doing that, as Wilson, the stage 2 winner, just hasn't had the longer run speed that he needs here to drive himself forward. But as we say this, the battle for the lead is about to be on. Steven Stippian on the back bumper of the 7 machine up front, and he needs to get it done quickly because Rogers has already cut it down to 2.2 seconds.
Yeah, the longer these guys are fiddling with these passes and trying to hold this track position, if they get side by side for long enough, Gavin Rogers will be there. He won't need all these laps to get to the lead.
He will not. He's each and every lap. I mean, last time by, almost 0.4 quicker. That is stupendous, if you ask me, for that 77. And when he gets there, it might even be easy, Brandon. So if you're Steven Stippian, you got to get around the 7 if you want any hope of holding back that 77, because he is flying.
Yeah, you've got to hope for either a great run from yourself or a mistake from Coffee ahead of you to give you that pass free and clear and give yourself an opportunity to cool down these tires, because you are going to need them by the time Gavin Rogers catches you. Otherwise, there's going to be no contest. You're going to have to settle for second.
This is going to be fun to watch. 19 to go. Only 1.7 seconds separating our top 3. And the driver in third is 0.3 a lap faster. It is closing down quickly as Steven Stippian has got to the back bumper of the 7. Hasn't been able to find the way around, but this may be his opportunity here. A little bit deeper through the center, and a better runoff will be his key. But both of them almost grazing that wall, as now they still stay bumper to bumper.
And just looking at it, Stippian's a little bit better on the entry, but Coffee able to get that gap from center to exit. But I think it's at the cost of burning up that right rear, as he is just hanging on the exit of these corners.
It is tough to see here because Coffee knows he's battling for the win, but into the outside wall here once again for the 7. The 81 needs to make this quick and decisive, because if he gets held up, it's only down to 1.2 seconds. Rogers, I think at this point, I mean, it's almost a foreseen conclusion. I think he's going to catch these two and pass them.
Yeah, I don't know how difficult it's going to be with the dirty air once he catches them. I don't know if it's going to slow down his lap times a whole lot. But, yet again, we see Coffee just hanging on to it. And now I think this gives Steven Stippian the preferred outside. But Coffee drives it in. Now a crossover move from the 81 here. Great run. Coffee again getting a little bit loose. And they're staying dead even down into 3.
Man, oh man, Coffee able to just drive it in so deep that he stays alongside either way, and he cleared him on that bottom side. If I was Steven Stippian, he needed to be more aggressive with that outside maneuver that he had working for him, and I think that is going to be what is going to hold him back here, just not holding the outside of the 7, letting him clear him there off of 2. That opened up the door for the 7 to hold that outside groove, and that's why it's been hard to pass him. He's just been really good about moving. Once he gets to that second groove, he gets just a good enough run off and a good enough entry that you cannot clear him.
And I think a lot of that has to do, Zach, is that the times that I've seen Stippian go to the high side to try to make it work, I don't think he's practiced it a whole lot, because he's so much higher up the racetrack than what we've seen Alex Coffey do to make that second lane work. But I fear it's all for naught, because Gavin Rogers is here.
I completely agree with you there. 14 to go, coming to 13 to go. I don't even know if this 77 is going to have a tough time passing him with the pace advantage that he has over him. I mean, Alex Coffey that last time by was about 100th quicker than Rogers, but I tell you, I just don't see the dirty air being that big of a factor for him, and maybe even helping the 77 when he gets to him. So we'll have to see here. But this long run, it's brought into the factor of saving your tires. In the 77, he played that game, and that game may come back to win him this race.
Well, like we said, we weren't sure if it was going to be a race-winning move, but we thought a pretty solid chance it was going to be top 3, but it's looking very good for a win here tonight for the 77. But his lap times have fallen off a decent bit. I don't know if he's just saving a little bit more to make this late charge, as he's all over the back of Steven Stympian now.
The best friend to Alex Coffey right now is that 81 machine, as he is trying to hold on. And it looks like Rogers just going to make an easy, clean pass there. And they're going to be coming. The 10 to go is Coffey's in the outside wall. And hard hit for him. That's going to hurt the right front fender. And now these guys are going to close within a couple tenths of Coffey out front. This is getting down to dire times. Coffey once again into the outside wall. It's just continuing to pile up front here for the lead. As I think Rogers, he's just going to have this one here in the bag unless something major happens.
Yeah, Coffey